have to be replaced at some point, and we can work together and save us some money by getting this done earlier rather than later. And we also tried to rod it last year and couldn't get through it. We wouldn't even be sure if we could get a camera all the way through it right now. So it is.
Oh,
Who is that bald guy on there?
They're acting.
Nice. So this is a pretty, so Justin has had the area surveyed. We got a rough alignment that was included in your packet of where we would, basically that storm drain that goes out on the end of his property is a dead end. So we can move the alignment up to that catch basin to the south, put a new catch basin in and then run it out into the river in another easement. So he's already had the area surveyed. We've got alignment through engineering, going to get a profile done. I've reached out to the Corps, DEQ, everybody who would be involved in getting the permitting done for that. And he's proposing, you know, a work together effort to get this moved and get a new pipe put in. I'm not, it would be a cost savings to us because at some point we are going to have to replace that pipe. Whether we do it now or in 15 or 20 years, it will need done. So that's where we're at with it. If it's something we would be willing to work through, we get a little bit more detailed cost and then probably some have that agreement written out short. So we got something right.
and you're willing to give us another easement in a different location?
Yep, I would propose taking the existing easement on the north side of the property and moving that to the south.
To the south side?
Yeah, and this process would include the amending of that current easement.
Shows the yellow is the proposed easement that goes through the house.
That's getting moved.
So currently there's a structure there that's being relocated. And so, yes, there's a 15-foot easement currently on the north side of the property. The alignment and the profile going on the south side, it doesn't need to be 15 foot because it's a very shallow storm sewer. So proposing that we would exchange the 15-foot easement on the north for a 10-foot easement on the south that would allow the same use.
The only. And we get by with the 10-foot easement, because that means if we have to go in and dig it up for repair, we're gonna be on your property.
Yes, sir.
We got to stay on that 10-foot regardless.
So
It's pretty hard to dig up a line in 10-foot.
Yeah, it is shallow. I mean, the more working room, the better. If that's obviously.
yeah,
It's a 12-inch plastic pipe. So, I mean, it's going to be a mini X that works through that
The
area.
only disadvantage for you to having a 15-foot easement instead of a 10 is you can't build on that
Yes, sir.
easement.
Yep.
So that's all you'd be losing by keeping the easement the same.
and that's the only thing that bothers me by narrowing it down to a 10-foot is having enough room for repairs. Hopefully there isn't any, but you know,
And it'd be okay while you live there, but if you sell it and then somebody else, they say, well, you got to stay on that 10-foot easement.
So,
Now that's where the issue would come.
that may be open for some additional discussion if you're in favor of that.
yeah, we'd
Uh,
discuss it.
you know, I guess why they put it there in the beginning, it was two separate properties. Is that correct? Or was it one property?
It's right now, the easement is the north 15 feet of 114 veterans. So it is the north, it's where there were no structures. And it went down what was pretty much along where the trees are and where the current structures are not.
Are you willing to work with the cost sharing on this project?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you've already paid for engineering, I see.
Yep. We've been working with EA Engineering to figure out what area it captures three blocks that are to the east of Veteran Street. So it collects those three blocks, and then everything to the north is all surface flow. So it's the only storm sewer over on that section of the neighborhood.
Well, I kind of like the idea of moving it for two reasons. One is to help him out, but the second one is we don't even know if it's working efficiently right now. We could still be getting flooded if they can't get a roto rooter through it. So chances are it probably need repaired.
Or it's gonna need replaced at some point. It's not.
Yeah.
And Chuck and John are.
Yeah, John is the one who informed me that the rotor rooter wouldn't go in it. He didn't really have any concerns with it. He said he was the one that dug it in back in 93, the original one. But I'm hearing bigger easement.
That's the only big issue I see with any of it.
Me too. And I think, well, I'm, as part of the town, I'm in agreement of working with him. I think we, you know, we can do this on a cost sharing project, and sounds like the storm drain system over there needs a little rework anyway, so why not? It'll just be moved. What are you talking? How many feet of pipe?
173 feet.
Yeah. And a new catch basin.
And some permitting. I mean, that'll be the longest.
EQ.
DEQ and Army Corps. And so we need a pre-construction notice, 404 permit, and then a water quality certification from DEQ. And I've talked to all those guys. I didn't see any. I sent all the alignment pictures and the what EA had so far to them. They didn't throw any big red flags back at me, but that's a process that we will have to work through.
If I could get a motion to move forward on this, we can discuss the cost sharing as we go. The first thing we need to do is get the permitting lined out and get a copy of the old easement and get it in the attorney's hand. I want to have that easement signed before we start moving forward.
Yep.
To council in favor of that?
This
Yeah.
4,600, is this just a rough estimate?
It's pretty close. I mean, I called them and everything, but obviously we're gonna be 90 days, 60 days probably. Permitting goes well from getting it constructed. That could come up or go down a little bit.
And this is total or shared?
That's total.
Okay.
But that's with, because he's already paid for the surveying, and he'll handle any, if they want to see more profiles on the permitting side of thing, he'll handle that. And then we'll dig it with the in and put the catch basin in. So it's kind of.
I would propose that we, my ask is that we take the discharge out. We can abandon the pipe,
Leave it in.
Right.
leave it in place. So we just take out the discharge, we take out the one catch basin, and then realign and go down the south side of the property.
And we'll grout everything off. That's not gonna be used anymore. So no water can get back down. and back
So
up.
then you'll be responsible if you put a dwelling.
Yeah, down the road, I'll remove that section of pipe, and that'll be ours to figure out once the easement's abandoned.
We don't have a motion to move forward pending the easement widening and the easement rededicate or call it amendment.
Amendment, I don't know, she'll probably just amend it to a different
Right,
location,
yeah.
would be my guess. But
What I would.
that's for her to decide, not, but, that'll probably be the fastest and cheapest. We could move forward with that part of it, and, that'll give the council time to think about how we want to split the cost sharing
Yeah.
and, move forward from there. Would you be, does that help you out?
Absolutely, yeah, when we're more than willing to continue conversations and see what the council thinks is fair, so.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to pursue or get some additional information on the storm drain replacement realignment for Justin Peterson pending easement amendments.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Okay.
Okay. We'll move forward. We will be in contact. Emery probably will, maybe tomorrow, but I'd say Monday at the earliest, probably. with the attorney and get this started.
Awesome.
Do you have a copy of the old easement?
I've got
Yep.
all my.
Oh, did you find? Okay.
Yeah, I'll get that over with the references and everything. So,
Okay. Well, thank you.
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, any other items from the public? Okay, we'll move on to council comments. Okay, we'll move on to reports from departments and we'll move into town hall. And the first thing on the list is Wyoming Community Gas Community Project Designation. Karina, would you explain this to us?
So every year we get a donation. Every year we get a donation from Wyoming Community Gas. And last year, we just received the check for last year for $5,200 and some odd dollars. And every year the council votes on where you want to put the funds. In the past, it's been donated to Never Forget Park, the ball fields, walking path benches. There was a whole list of stuff that has been done from the previous council. And so this is, we got this notification stating that we're going to be receiving these funds. And so if the council could think on where they want to donate the funds so we can earmark it. And then we'll need to fill out this letter and send it back to Natalie Flood by the end of December.
Some of my thoughts on that was splitting it up, you know, in the past, the whole sum of money has been given to one project. You know, there's a lot of things we could use it for. One of the first things that come up is if we split it 5 ways, it'd be about $1,120 per. And I thought, you know, police department to hold a bike rodeo for these kids in the spring of the year, you know, just before summer. You know, it just thoughts that come to my head. One of them was baseball field needs about $1,000 to replace some valves and sprinkler heads. You know, thought about a portion going to Tracy Young with the suicide prevention program. That was brought up by the young lady sitting there. Legally, I've got to find out what, you know, I don't know if it's town specific or, you know, drama club was brought up. The drama club with the school was also brought up about the FFA and the 4-H shooting sports. So that was just some of the suggestions I've got, but I'd like to table it until everybody had some input on this. And so we could come up, but my thoughts are it should be split up rather than go to one spot. I'm like, it's for a good cause. And everything's open. That was just some of the stuff talking with the ladies that we come up with. And the public has input, you know, get with a council member, tell them more youth, you know. Nothing says we have to split it 5 ways. We can split it 6 ways or so, you know, 7, whatever, but that's how I would like to, that I would recommend, but council have final decision. Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to ordinance number 868, revision per WAM recommendations. I'm gonna table that again tonight because now everybody has a copy of this ordinance and you can read it, put your input in on it. We'll send it back to Kylie. If I could get a motion to table this to further review.
I'll make a motion to
Do
table it.
I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
Okay. We'll move on to special event permit. Would you please read that out to us, what this is pertaining to?
Sophia Borg, it's organization Strong Tower Designs in the Palomino Half Bar. For the Community Fall Festival. Location is 109 East Spring Street. Empty lot out here. We'd like to also use the town parking lot behind the Wolf and close the street between. So I'm assuming between the Wolf and the parking lot here is where they want to close.
You mean
Yeah.
alley?
Yeah.
Okay.
No parking requirements, no vehicle needing special parking. Approximate number of volunteers is 30, approximate participants is 50 to 100. Will town property be used if allowed? Yes. No parking issues or traffic control will be a problem. They do not need any police. No plan for foreseen security issues, construct a plan for town requirements. No services from fire department. No services from planning commission. We'll have garbage bins around the lots and we'll remove all trash. Each booth will be responsible for their own. Town lots have the public restrooms that they're planning on using. No food sales, food trucks are welcome. All local businesses, restaurants as well. No alcohol. That's it. They do have the proper insurance.
Have you had a chance to review this, Mike?
No, I've seen it, just for the first time. I guess the only question I have, we talked about using a lot out here, but it does have 109 East Spring Street is the address of the lot, so is that actually?
That's where they're saying 109 East Spring Street, the town lot being whole.
So, okay, so
So it is that lot.
it is that lot, so it's actually just a lot of 110 East, so we're not doing anything across the street. So,
No, we would like to use both of them. Like the town parking or the town lot right here, and then across the street and just close that little section of the road.
across the street.
Yes, sir.
Here, okay, I guess the only issue I have with that is with both the police department being located on that street and the fire department, it may raise some concerns with emergency vehicles and then people trying to get either the fire department.
Can we just close like that one little section from one to the other?
I don't have a problem with doing half the street. I think we probably ought to make sure that Pat, the fire chief's got some input on that as well.
For
But
sure.
I think the half of the lot would be all right if we had some signage that would kind of direct them that, because there are times during an emergency that somebody looks for a fire department or police department as well, and I'd hate to have somebody. have
We
an
can put
emergency.
signs up. I'll be glad to do that as well.
But I think that's really the only issue I have with if we have some sort of emergency, just being able to get emergency equipment through that area.
Sure. Emery, do you have any issues?
That would be my.
Okay.
It mentions food, there will be food sales potentially.
Food trucks, I've had a couple of the hangry services and Oleo asked if this gets approved, if they can set up, and I don't know what the rules are on that, so I was gonna ask that. Are they allowed to do that?
They'll be running under your permit,
Okay,
as long as they have a license to the city for a food vendor truck,
okay,
and Oleo does. I do know they do. Well, everyone in town that you see in town,
Yeah.
they all have a permit.
then they both should, yeah.
Yeah, so,
I just wanna have an old fashioned fall festival for free.
okay.
So we just need to amend this to say food trucks are welcome as well as local restaurants.
That's-
You won't be selling food, but there's a potential for food to be sold.
My kind of goal was to get as many people from the community involved as I could. And not just have like one section or one part, like pulling the Platte Valley Art Council in to do the pumpkin painting with the kids, and pulling local businesses like Hatch is doing the cowboy games and roping dummies, and they're putting on Brush Creek, and 708 is doing the cornhole tournament. Old Baldy is going to potentially, if they will ever give me a yes or no, 8 people says yes and 2 people say no. So the pumpkin patch. And then I tried to get with the Mr. Allen from the grocery store to coordinate it with the school, but it just didn't work out that way for in-service days. But so I ordered from him, so he's still receiving stuff for it, and then a free concert and old-fashioned games, which each business, Red Sage is gonna do a cider booth if that is allowed. I didn't know about that. It's non-alcoholic, like hot cocoa and cider, is that allowed? Okay, and then just,
It would be included in this permit.
okay. That's the only food and drink, I believe, unless people bring their own like water or whatever. And then have like beanbag tosses and like fun stuff, not grown-up kid stuff, just fun.
All ages fun.
Yes.
Okay.
92.
Yeah, if we could, if you want to amend it to have, well, we can just write on there to have include food trucks. And we can put that on the original, which is in the clerk's office that we sign off on.
And the singer does not need any equipment except for his little amp speaker thing that his guitar plugs into.
That's fine.
Power, he'll need,
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Power. But I was just gonna use our generator just because it's one of the quiet ones. That way it's not even a hassle for anybody.
they might be able to plug into the building. I don't know.
I don't
Oh,
know
I
if
think
there's,
I have power on my lot. I think I do. I need to check that. Yeah.
I would just, we'll provide you with, well, I'll just have Mike check with Walliser with the fire department and see if he's good. That would be the only hiccup about closing off that portion of the street.
I'm fine with just the section in between the 2 parking lots, just so people can walk back and forth.
Okay,
If that's okay, and I'll be glad to put, excuse me, what kind of signs I need to pointing to which departments where, I'll be glad to do any of that.
okay. But if you would check with Fire Chief Walliser, we'll do I have a motion to approve this special event permit as amended with food trucks?
Pending street closures. I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Okay, we'll move on to Wydot Bridge. Last Thursday, I received, well, I'll take you back a little bit. I think it was back in April, we talked about if I could prove ownership, that the town actually owned the bridge at the Saratoga Inn. And it's the old green bridge off, I believe it's off Condit Court. It goes across the Platte River. Texas Trail. It goes across the river, which every year we seem to run into issues about weight restrictions, and now they've really got it restricted down. That's the way we provide fire protection. Anyway, during high water, it's really hard to provide fire protection because we don't have a way to get over there unless we break the law and go across the bridge and take our chances. So anyway, I was able to prove that the town owned the bridge. WYDOT accepted that. They sent me back an email saying, do you want us to move forward? And I said, yes. Now I have an agreement in my hand and I need the council's approval to sign it and get it back to them, and we will get a new bridge at the Saratoga Inn. The only cost to the town that I can find in there is if we want something special done with the old bridge. So pretty much, wore out. The decking's falling apart. On this, I did send this off. The attorney looked at it, got back with me late this afternoon saying it's just a standard contract with WYDOT, and she thought everything looked good in it. So,
Something I didn't think about is maybe Doc Jensen would be interested in paying to move that bridge sideways and let the golf carts cross it.
We could approach him about that,
Yeah,
moving it over one way or the other,
probably. Well, yeah, one way or the other.
because I'm sure Emery and I discussed it. I haven't seen no plan.
We don't want to pay for it, but
No,
if he's
no.
interested in
no, we're trying to get
for golf cart traffic.
yeah, we're trying to get a bridge across there that we can provide services over.
We can look into that if that bridge gets moved, FEMA and then the corporate, there'd be maybe analysis required outside of what that scope is to move that due to its elevation and whatnot. So I can shoot a few emails and get some info on that to see if that's.
And I'll text Jensen and see
Okay.
if he's even interested in it.
Okay. But other than that, will the council give me approval to go ahead and sign this agreement and get it back to them? And I'm sure they got to go into design stage and,
So,
possibly, my guess is it's 2 years off anyway,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
would be my guess.
Are there phases of the agreement? I mean, right now, we're just pursuant and then they will provide us updates for the new design and,
they'll do an investigation
right.
prelim, and then those results will either, it says we'll replace it, repair it. And so they'll get an update at that point.
So this is just to do the investigation.
No, it's for the whole process, but it states in there, that's how it's gonna go. They'll evaluate everything on a very technical level. Develop a design plan for the.
They're, YDOT is responsible for all bridges in the state of Wyoming. They're the ones that come in and back to Kathy. They're the one that put the weight limit restrictions on it. We don't have any, we just get notified to go change the weight restriction sign. And then we buy the sign and go put it up.
yeah.
I just read this one part of the responsibilities of the town and it says if we abandon the project. So if we say, let's move forward tonight and then we decide their design isn't acceptable, how does this bind us?
Yeah, or if we
That's
try
fine.
to give it down the road, if the town tried to vacate that property to a property owner or something and give that bridge, we would have to pay this.
Abandon the bridge, okay.
Yeah.
And it- Okay.
I'll make a motion to have Chuck sign that to proceed with it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll move forward. Move on to fire department. I don't see anybody here from the fire department. I was not contacted, so I guess they don't have a report. We'll move on to the recreation department. Kim?
No, police department. It's next, I think.
Go ahead. Down there.
Way to go.
That's right over there.
Trying to sneak out. Thank you very much. For once, I do not come before you asking for any money. Since last council meeting, we had the police department fielded 191 calls for service. Of those, there were 29 animal calls, 62 business checks, 11 traffic citations. Those were just of note. We did go last week to schools, both through the elementary schools, the middle school and the high school, and presented the vehicle decals, the graphics, and overwhelmingly the purple and gold won out. I never would have guessed that at all. So the graphics of the decals have been ordered, still working on what we're going to do to get them on. So that's not been decided yet, but we've got about another week and a half before we get the actual decals. I'd like to, once we get them on, we'll probably do a day where we have the vehicles up to school, since they played a integral role in deciding that. I'd kind of like to unveil them up there with the school.
I am working on some proposals for the vehicles to get rid of some of the vehicles that the police department has right now. Hopefully we'll be able to maybe get a little bit of an idea. Maybe we can use some of the money that we'd set aside before and the additional money from selling some of the stuff. Maybe we can look at another vehicle. One of the vehicles that's kind of on the block right now is I've been driving the vehicle that we had for the Canaan vehicle. It was really very purpose built. It was designed to specifically haul a canine around, not just a drug canine, but a canine that was also used for handler protection. You hit a button, the doors pop open, the whole 9 yards. So it may be something we don't need going forward right now, since unfortunately we do not have a canine officer. And if we are fortunate enough to get another canine handler, probably go a little different route. We've already been in discussion about changing this vehicle around a little bit. So right now I can't even really safely carry a prisoner in it if we were to make arrest. It doesn't have a back seat with a cage that we can put a prisoner. So that might be something that, or not might be, that is something I'll be looking into going forward. So other than that, that's really all I had, unless anybody had any questions.
Any questions for Mike? Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to the rec.
Let him off easy.
Yeah, he didn't ask for money.
Well, good evening, everyone. A couple of things to talk about this evening. Flag football season started yesterday. So I have a couple of bids for t-shirts. The first of which comes from Cuts and Stitches. A bid for $369 for the design shown there. 41 total shirts. And then another one from Johnson, the design shown there, for the $533. So I'd like to get approval to order those so I can get them hopefully by maybe next week for the kids in the season. I feel like I can't beat the price with Cuts and Stitches, so that would be the one I would like to get approval for, $369.
This is paid through their entrance fee, correct?
That paid through their entrance fee. Mhm.
I'll make a motion to okay it.
Approve Cuts and Stitches quote.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you. The next item, I might actually table now that I hear Sophie Borg had a fall festival planned, which ours almost mirrors what she's doing. The item was to ask for payment for the J&J Second Chance Small Holding to bring goats to our fall festival for $100. But maybe I might reach out to her and see if we could partner with her
Yeah.
or join forces.
Together.
Because almost everything she's doing is almost everything I'm trying to do.
Okay.
Just trying to get pumpkins and, I mean, everything you said, it's like, oh, that's what I've been trying to do. So maybe we could join forces and,
Collaborate.
work together to make
I know.
an event. So I think I'd like to table that fall carnival. And I'll reach out to her and see if maybe we can work together on that. So I'll postpone that for.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good idea, Kim.
Thank you. Next on the item is a job description. This job description includes custodial duties, 15 hours per week that would be paid for by the Platte Valley Community Center. In addition to that, there'll be approximately 14 hours rec assistant, which will come from my budget. I put together some of the qualifications, education requirements, and other details. I'd like to get this one approved as soon as possible, as we've had no custodial
work at the gym for quite some time, as well as, I need some assistance with all of the upcoming seasons and such, basketball coming up and volleyball. So if you had a chance to look over it, if I could get your approval on that, I've got money in my budget to hire. And then, like I said, the Platte Valley is partnering for the custodial half of that.
Kim, did you have a chance to go talk to Joe about the details of that job description? Well, there.
Joe gave me everything that's under custodial. The rec facility came from Joe.
The position, the actual posting where it's a partnership. I'm bringing this up because at our last meeting, I updated them on that information that we were doing a combined position and it wasn't received well because of the delay. Really. So we're looking, the concern is if you're looking for someone to ride a skid steer
And this is a different.
so this is
Yeah.
just, right, this is separate.
We
Okay.
can take that, I think, off the table, that last. This has came up, and I think that this is a much
This is a
better.
completely different
arrangement.
one. And the mayor and I talked to Joe about, this person would be strictly under the supervision of me or the rec director. So it would be all kind of managed in one house, whereas that other position was going to be kind of hard to manage.
Strictly custodial and strictly rec.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that job description's different
Yeah, that's completely different and that's been taken off the table.
and this new job description is in the packet.
On page 35.
I didn't have a chance to read this. I just
Yeah.
got this afternoon, so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that I just wanted to point out the concerns.
Yeah, I
of that
talked to
other.
Joe after
Okay.
that meeting. In fact, the mayor and I called him, so
Okay,
that's been.
so this is to be considered right away at this $15 an hour. Part-time, it's a part-time position, yeah, okay.
You guys have a chance to read it?
I scanned through it a little
I
bit.
think it looks pretty good, so. Since she took this strictly from community center. And what the custodials have to
That
do,
came strictly
And then-
from Joe Elder.
you know, she knows what,
I did the rec assistant based on kind of my job description as well as.
along with that, we're having trouble getting high school kids to work like they did, so she needs a little more help. So,
Yeah, I'm all for this. I just wasn't aware that there was a modification made to that original after the concerns were expressed at our last joint power board meeting. So this looks good. I mean, and it looks more reasonable to pursue someone to fill this position for sure.
a lot
And
easier,
then we can look at the
a lot easier.
some folks later.
Yeah, it's definitely a better arrangement.
Yeah.
For sure.
And we can likely fill it faster.
I hope so.
I'll make a motion to approve this job description for a part-time employee at the community center and the gym.
I'll second it.
Advertise.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I would say let's get it published as soon as possible.
Thank you. I'll do it tomorrow. Next on the list, I called it a memo of use. It's really just a memo that I typed up. As I've been approached by some folks, that are immediate family members of the town of Saratoga employees, asking if they would be able to use the facility free of charge, or if they needed to buy a membership, how that worked. I didn't see anything in any of the employee handbooks. And so after speaking with some folks, I typed up this memo asking you to consider allowing immediate family members of town of Saratoga employees use of the gym facilities free of charge, assuming of their proper age and all of the rules and such. And if you do approve it, we would just add that to the employee handbook so that it was well known.
To follow up on that, I reached out to Sarah and that's something that was done in a practice. There was never nothing in writing
Okay, I couldn't find it.
anywhere. So what it would allow is employees and families to go over there for free. To the rec center.
And it's
Yeah.
facility and classes or anything that's happening at the facility.
I don't think you could do it with classes because that independent person charges.
For the community center, you mean?
My thought was just use of the gym, which is, you know, basketball, volleyball, open gym. Those type of things. You know, we'd have to go make sure liability waivers are signed and such.
I don't see a problem with it.
And such classes, I would think would be something different, because
Right.
pay as you go and.
And I don't see a problem with it either. The only thing I want to do is we need to get something in writing in the personnel policy. So there's no question.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
I think it needs to be documented, so.
And because we have different levels of membership, right? So would they be members? Would we require the registration and the waivers and all of that? Or just have that on file?
Yeah, all of our town employees are underpaid anyway, and we can't afford to pay them more. But we can give them an incentive, benefit, of some kind.
Yeah.
Stay, we lose them like,
Make it
drop like.
official. So, I mean, as long as it's somehow explained to what extent they have access to.
You know, I assume if they're of age, I'm comfortable with giving them access to the weight room and the spinning room. If they're 13 or older, if they have signed consent from an adult, if they. Or
Correct.
adult, if they're in the weight room, that with an adult, if they're
Yeah.
13 or older. And then, you know, the general facility in the gym, such as basketball, volleyball, those equipment, kind of for the younger kids. So I feel like that's what I'm comfortable in offering.
Would this transfer to pool usage in the summer?
That might be another discussion. I don't know. I hadn't thought about that.
I don't know why it couldn't. And that would be a nice perk for employees of the town. If we include use of the gym and facility, then a family pool pass is something we might want to consider as well, if we're updating it. Excluding classes with like instructor-led classes.
I'll think about that one. I might bring it up at our, I know we have a scheduled meeting tomorrow with the pool
Yeah.
folks and such.
Maybe
I
time.
might talk about it at that one. Think about that one.
But this is a policy. We just need to pass it amongst ourselves. It'll go, I mean, it's not like an ordinance or anything.
No.
I mean, another council can come in and change the policy. So
Yeah,
Right.
I'll make a motion
to go forward with
go
it.
forward with it.
To update the wording of the policy, employee policy,
Yeah.
to include use of gym facilities.
And we can do a rider on the pool. Making that exempt or not, or however you
Okay.
guys decide to do it.
That'd be something, who would actually write that verbiage? Me or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got faith in you.
Okay.
Yeah. Do I have a second to Jerry's motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, we move forward with that then.
I just have a couple of other items. These aren't on the agenda. I just wanted to aware or make you aware of some upcoming events. There's the first, a full moon hike is scheduled for September 29th. The rec, I'm hosting it, as well as some people are bringing telescopes and such. We're hiking out to Indian Bathtub, scheduled from 6 to 8 p.m. So I just wanted to be aware of that. They'll sign liability waivers and such. It's an event free to the public. I did some advertising on social media and such. Also with some upcoming seasons such as basketball and volleyball. I'm hoping to incentivize those programs a little bit for volunteers, because we didn't get very many volunteers for flag football. So I'm kind of brainstorming some ideas, like maybe offering free punch cards for folks that want to be a line judge, or if your kid's going to play and you volunteer to coach, maybe you'll get your kid registered for free. Something along those lines are what I've been brainstorming. So just want to kind of throw that out there. If you have any ideas or know of anything that's been offered like that in the past, to try to get some volunteers involved. It's kind of what I'm thinking for some upcoming seasons.
Try to get the word out that we need volunteers, sir.
We have done like a discount, I think, on kids, if your kids are playing and you're coaching. What events, anything amazing.
Volleyball, basketball. All of the upcoming rec leagues, both adults and youth, you know, we need basketball, we need scorekeepers, we need timekeepers, we need.
Could you get that on your website about, you know, we want the programs to go through successfully, but we need volunteers.
Mhm.
Trying to incentivize. What can we give people? It's true. I mean, like, I think registering your kid, like waiving the fee is reasonable. Cause you're gonna have to bring them and add,
There anyway.
you're there,
So-
but plus some, right? And then we do have volunteers who are referees that don't have kids that play, so.
So anyway, that's just a brainstorming if you wanna
Yeah,
give me your 2 cents and think about that for
Yes.
coming programs.
use caution with the giving.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what we got.
well, it was gonna be more like discount to play, or it's not
Right.
necessarily, I don't have any money to pay, I don't have anything to give.
Yeah.
But I could offer you a discount in your registration or, you know, something along those lines. So anyway, I'm gonna keep thinking about that, but that's all I've got. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay, we'll move on to Department of Public Works. Emery.
Well, the first item on here, 19. This is actually the vault that'll be for the lift station. Everybody kind of started working on before I got here. Required a lot of the pipe. We've got pumps sitting up at Imperial Pump Solutions, waiting for cabinet to get in. This is kind of one of the last material pieces of the puzzle. So I sent them off the designs that Copez drew up. And instead of casting one piece, they have this that comes, same thing, it comes in pieces of seals, and then we'll grout inside and out when we get it. They've got one about 4 weeks out, and they'll deliver it to site. So,
Delivery too, huh?
yeah,
That from Vaughn.
yeah.
He also said that Emery was saying if we have the hole dug, they'll set it right in the hole for us.
They will.
Yeah, 200 at 200, or $250.
Yeah, which is a pretty good deal.
As long as we can time that right, but keep
As long as you
the,
got the whole,
right, and keep it dry and all the water out of it.
Wrong time of year for.
shouldn't be water in that one up there.
We thought we might get into a little down towards the bottom. Things gonna be 8 feet deep.
I would say we need to move forward for this because we've already spent a bunch of money from last year's budget to get this done.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
I'll make a motion to move forward with it.
Have a second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Also, when I got here, we we're looking at getting a flatbed truck for the streets. Mainly be able to pull, have a flatbed, pull the gooseneck, pull equipment, put pallets on it. Be able to have a bigger truck, put a plow on it. And also in the future, if we want to get a smaller sander that was not involved with our CDL trucks, we might be able to look at doing that. So instead of trying to piecemeal and then have this piece here, that piece there, and get it wired, we put it out as a bid and did alternates to see what would come back. And so we did get 3 back, and they're in, you guys get the tab in here. The 2 were pretty close with the whole package. The problem is we had 50 grand in the streets budget for the truck. These are obviously higher than that. So moving forward, if we put it in the budget, we'd have to watch things, and then at the end, we could have to amend that, which we could do. I did talk to Dan from WAN about that, their director. That's a decision, that's up to you guys. If we just get the truck doesn't really serve our purposes right at the moment. And then also getting a flatbed and the plow, if we have them wire that in, we don't have to worry about somebody wiring something into the harness wrong or whatever, voiding our warranty. Bob, for the whole package, Bob Brewer is the cheapest. Obviously, the delivery times are stated on there. I don't have an extreme amount of confidence that one of those timelines doesn't end up shorter and one doesn't end up a little bit longer. Everybody did have their warranty info listed and yeah, and luckily, I mean, they were the most expensive ones, so they're out anyway.
Well, we're about 19, well, just rounded off to 20,000 over what we set aside. There is money in impact funds if we have to go back for that. Emery brought up a good point. This will also be used in the water and sewer department. That, you know, I mean, we have the money available. They need a truck. Just a little more than what we thought.
Yeah.
What was the bid on the total?
Pardon?
The total, what was the bid on?
6.
Go ahead.
Well, one's at 69,423, and that's a 1-ton Dodge. Delivery date of 180 days. The other one was 69,514. 120 to 50 days, and then the high bid was 70,390. But it's got on here a 365 days to deliver.
What's your concern with Bob Brewer?
Oh, I just think I was just saying the timelines in general, getting stuff right now.
Oh, okay.
They could say 180, it could get here in 150. These guys could say 150, it might end up being
Yeah,
or after that.
and that's with the bed on every one of them.
Yep, that's with the bed and the plow all wired in and
Ready
Done.
to go to work.
toolboxes on the bed. And so we're not having to, that would be my concern with putting the bed on or somebody ground something wrong for the lights that the dealer didn't do and they wouldn't put the bed on. That's your, no warranty in that.
That includes the warranty.
Yep.
And they're obviously a flatbed, it's under boxes, right?
For toolboxes, cab right up against the cab.
Yeah.
One on each side.
And it'll have a fifth wheel hitch for,
Gooseneck and a, conventional in the back.
How long is the warranty, Emery?
So they have on the tabs there. They're pretty standard powertrain and
I just saw it in the RFP. I didn't see specifics on the warranty.
like 3 pay, yeah, so right on here.
Oh, I see.
5-year, 100,000 miles for the powertrain, 3 years comprehensive, and they're all pretty similar. And they did have the warranty information included with the plow and the bed. Our packet was 20 more pages thick.
It includes all the equipment,
Yeah,
electrical, everything.
Yeah.
mechanical.
it was spec'd out to be provided and installed. So, and if they were supposed to deviate from any of that, that should have been listed right here, and nobody deviated from the provide and install, so.
Flatbed and the snow plows detachable. It's very.
Right, it has a,
And are them fleet models that they're bidding out, or are they?
I mean, it's a basic white, force, if it's a Ford, the Forest Service probably buys a bunch of them.
Dodge, Chevy, Ford. That's our option, huh?
Well, we should, if we're gonna do this, we should go with the lowest.
Yeah, Yeah.
bid.
I mean, even though it's just like $100 difference, less than
yeah,
the longer lead time on that one. Do you think that there's possibility if we went with Fremont that they would match?
I think this is what was presented and we should make a decision on you're talking about going back to them and we can't, if we don't take the,
bid.
right, we have to put it out and then go all
Go
back
back.
out. Yeah,
True. Okay,
And we don't have to take the lowest bid, correct?
we do.
we should in this.
highly recommended too.
Without having a really detailed scoring sheet as to, they were all very similar except the delivery times and
I don't know if that would be a good thing to go on
I wouldn't feel that, yeah, we said in the RFP, you know, based on technical specifications and adherence to the specifications. Without, if we were gonna rank everything, I would have liked to describe that very specifically as you will, you know, this is a 10-point system. These are the 5 categories, just so people knew.
Okay, so funding in this, we have how much budgeted? And then how much that we would reallocate from the,
$19,423 is what we would have to either amend the budget or reallocate in line items in the street department.
And we could, if this is something that we move forward with and we can watch those line items and we may not have to come the end of the year if things work out. But I would just want to be in full transparency that that is something we potentially could be walking into. Because just because we buy a truck, we may not be able to negate another expense down the road. We're very early in the budget. I don't see them getting any cheaper. Fortunately, the 2 trucks we use right now are early 2000s for plowing. This would give us a newer with the plow on it that would not require a CDL, which would be handy considering hard to find.
I'd say move ahead with it, with the Dodge.
Chair would entertain a motion and
I would make a motion to move ahead with the bid for the
the low
Dodge.
bid.
Yeah.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
first we'd be using that as this spring potentially,
Yeah, unless it shows up in
unless we get it.
December. By the time everything gets here, they get everything wired,
Mhm.
get it to us.
Hopefully we'll get here by the time the next big blizzard hits.
Yeah. One, I put in, so the proposal that ended up in your packets, I was going back through it and I needed the timeline and a site visit on there, so I'd set another one that's not stapled to your packet, that's the final. So as this has come up in conversation kind of at these meetings, and then we had an additional meeting and John Nelson was there and spoke at that. There's concerns with the accuracy of the floodplain maps that we're potentially getting. So we get these new maps, very important to note that there'll be some construction requirements that change. There will be noted elevations. There could be implications with insurance policies. People who were not required to have NFIP insurance will now be required. This is a pretty significant update. Rollins is actually in the process of going through a amendment because of their concerns with their maps. So the process moving forward we come up with is try and reach out to a neutral third party, technical experience to look at these and go, yeah, there's some issues with this. This is not accurate. We want to tread very lightly as we go into that. As we start remodeling this whole map situation, it could get worse. I mean, if you want to use that word, than it actually is right now. So the thing with the modeling is there's a lot of room for interpretation of how you can work inside FEMA's guidelines. And there might be an opportunity for us to look at their model, look at what they've got, look at the data, look how they constructed everything and go, no, this is not normally how we build a FEMA map. And this is why, and get that changes put in before the end of our appeal period, which is what this proposal is pertaining to, is a high level look coming out, looking at the ground, high level look at their model. And then coming back to us saying, hey, this is what we saw. This is where we're at. And then we can take another step forward. We don't want to go in and just remodel everything right off the bat and end up with this monstrosity that's not even more of an improvement than what we had. Now they have what's called a LOMR process, FEMA does. So say we get these maps, which will probably be in effect sometime at the end of next year, 2024. That we could look into all this data and revise them later down if we wanted to do that. That's why Rollins is going through the Lomer process right now. Sugar Creek, does that sound like a? Okay, so, I mean, we want to look at it now is why we can and get ahead of the curve if it's something we want to do. But we have options down the road to look at this. It's nothing's definitive forever once they put it in place. Moving forward, I'm just tread very lightly. These guys, I've worked with Nathan in here before. The dude's super sharp. I think John's been around, Riley. Yeah. I went work through them with the Clomer process, which is a very similar mapping revision. And just having guys who would just be totally out in left field who are neutral and just have them look at it. That would be the step that I would recommend we take, and then we could go from there. It could be, yeah, it's $9,500 to have them look into that. But you're talking some of these people that might not be in when the map's saying they're in, they could end up with an insurance policy for $4,000 a year that they don't need to have. So I think if we think that there's an opportunity, and these guys did see some stuff kind of looking at them that were odd, for sure. You know, they didn't want to say, hey, this is wrong, that's wrong, but they did see some oddities. HDR kind of said the same thing. They didn't want to get involved. John has seen things that he thinks are of a concern. So I think it's warranted to take a look at. I don't think at this point in time, we determine that we're going to pull out our sword and make a campaign against FEMA to try and get them changed. We just want to make sure for the people who live here that we did as much due diligence as we could and get as accurate as.
Well, I think as elected officials, we owe it to the town to take a look at this. I really do. I mean, it's $10,000, but I just feel we owe it to the town people. I mean, whether we go forward after they look at it or decide what we're gonna do, I just feel we need to go forward with this. I mean, I'm not up about spending 10 grand either, but I think it's one of those things we need to go forward with because it affects a lot of people. It could affect the town hall, the police department, everything downtown. I mean.
And what's the appeal period? It's a year after they've done their final.
So, yeah, I can back up for a minute on that. So FEMA, when they put out these initial draft maps, which they did.
Preliminary was 22 or 21?
It was 21 and then they were revised, I believe, and then we got them in 22.
Okay.
And then they published 3 notices. The middle notice starts a 90-day appeal period, which was like July 26. So, and I'm talking to FEMA, if we have anything, to say or comment wise, or that's technically valid, that point, that could get in before that 90-day appeal period. And if it's significant enough, they will take a look at it and go, whoa, which could push in a map amendment without having to go through a Lomer process. After that point, if we still want to proceed and keep digging, the Lomer option is always available to us. It will be expensive.
Mhm.
The Lomer will cost us probably 60 grand.
Yeah.
So that's why just saying we're going to do a Lomer right off the bat is probably not
Well,
what we
And
want to do.
the downstream effect is it puts the onus on the individuals who own the homes, right, to do a LOMA request. So you have to write a letter and have all the supporting documentation, certification from a certified permitted geo analyst or survey in order to put in a request for an amendment. And that's on an individual level. And that can be tens of thousands of dollars per person. So what we're looking at now is appeal. But when they came back and did the revision, John, part of that was we requested that time in-person evaluation, walking down these streets where there was disconnect or where it was inconsistent or illogical coding. I mean, like the colors change from one house to the next, right? In non-floodplains. So what kind of history do we have here? And I mean, we're talking about FEMA and they can red tape us forever. But if we hit it this early on and we put the investment in now, do we have an idea of what the success rate is, or if this is feasible, or if we get it in front of them sooner rather than later? Do you have any kind of historicals there?
I don't think the word success is what we're necessarily like looking for. We want to ensure accuracy. So, if these guys are digging into this map and they're like, yeah, okay, we can understand, like John's got a pretty good technical, basis. They can understand where they came to that conclusion. We will know that there isn't going to be enough technical data to overcome FEMA's stance. And like, we could probably find that out pretty early. Like, yeah, at some point we're done. We can't do anything. It just is, maps are what they are.
But like the justification of those maps, when they came out, you came back with some statistical data about historically how our river has never risen above a certain level. That we've never had the like worst case scenario that they're expecting, which determined flood zones, right? And they sort of kind of poo-pooed those comments.
Yeah, please.
I think Kathy, what you're referring to about like the technical aspect of or the historical aspect was they're showing a base flood elevation for the basis of those maps. They have all that shading and all those properties that are affected. That's lower than the river was in 2011.
Oh, the gauge height.
Right. So, I mean, I've said this to you guys before. I don't consider myself a floodplain expert or a hydrologist. You know what I mean? This is something that Emory's found people that are qualified and independent, right? I'm also not an independent party. I'm part of it.
Correct.
Right. So I think what, I'm asking for as a citizen now that I'm off the council is this appeal period is the period of time in which the municipality has to file an appeal. And what Emory's asking for is to hire this independent party to help us decide whether or not that making that kind of an appeal is a wise thing to do. Or, whether we should go down that road, because like you said, you're right. If we get through the appeal process without filing an appeal or raising any objections or concerns formally, then it does become something where it either gets more expensive for the town to do a LOMA or for an individual resident to do an elevation cert or a LOMA. That's, collectively, we're going to spend a lot more than 90, what was it, 10 grand, whatever it is.
9,500.
And so I think Chuck, you said it, to advocate for, to be the advocate for the residents, I think is what we're asking for at this stage.
And one thing to note, if the elevations, like you bring up the LOMA process, if the elevations are substantially inaccurate as far as what the real base flood elevation is, somebody due to their predetermined ground elevation might not be able to get out even with a LOMA, and they could if the elevations were more accurate.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it said right in the appeal process that just because we think they're wrong isn't a good enough answer. They want technical data.
Yep.
So this is the only way we have a chance to fight this is with technical data.
Right.
So the information gathering for the tasks, and that's supplied by us, you feel like we have sufficient information, historicals, backup, and photos to support what our argument is.
They're gonna take what FEMA has and FEMA used and see how they did theirs to determine if there's any
Discrepancies.
negligences
Yeah, okay.
with how they constructed their model. That's gonna be the first step.
So this supplied by the client is really FEMA
Most of that's gonna
supporting
come from FEMA,
documentation.
yeah.
And they think they can finish phase one. Are these 4 listed items phase one by October 11? Is that we would know as soon as that, whether we have
Whether they think, hey,
pursue something?
you should probably look at doing a LOMER. Hey, we can try to throw this at FEMA. To be honest with you, I think if we do any significant map changing, I think it's going to end up over the thing doing the LOMER. I think you gotta look at, Rollins has ended up kind of in that same boat. But before we go down that road, you don't want to just decide that's what we're gonna do. And then LiDAR and then do this and then do that and everything, when FEMA's just gonna go, no, our model's good. We constructed it correctly. Sorry.
Do you have a comment?
From what you guys have gathered, there's strong evidence that it's incorrect. Is what you're getting at.
There's oddities, significant oddities about how they constructed it and what they used to construct the map.
That's my opinion. But again, I mean, the asterisk by that is I'm a civil engineer, but not a, floodplain expert or.
Yeah.
They said you had really good questions. Nathan said really good questions. So I called the layman and said, that's probably not warranted. Those were really.
But yeah, I mean, the way they drew.
The color coding.
Sections, the fact that they didn't map the channel, I mean, these are, like. I did a continuing education class because I needed some hours and I did a floodplain class. So I sat in for 8 hours. That's like the grand extent of my training on floodplain.
Yeah.
But in the basics and the 101 course, they tell you, this is really critical to having an accurate map. And from what I can tell, they didn't do that. So I think they're looking for customers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can speak personally. I live on 11th Street above the high school. I bought my home, I financed it, my bank sold the loan. They followed that FEMA map from 1982.
Mhm.
And I was in a floodplain above the high school. I paid $1,200 a year that could have gone towards my principal. It's infuriating and frustrating. And there's a lot of pain in the rear end kind of process you have to go through. And it's like a full-time investment where you have to hire people to come out and prove it. So it's a very painful process. And it has nothing to do with logic.
Right.
So if we have the money as a town, cover this and pursue this and maybe mitigate some serious heartache down the road, I'm for it. How I felt the only way I got out of it was paying off my house. That's it.
And there are a lot of people in, my neighbors in our, our neighborhood that don't have the means
No,
to just pay off their house to avoid it or to go fight and hire experts to do it individually. And so I think this is like one of those, local government, like, rally around the county council and community, and try to put up a fight, if you want to call it that.
at least make an effort.
Yeah.
This
That's just
effort.
Question.
Yes.
I was just gonna say, speaking as a resident of Saratoga and someone in Mr. Nelson's neighborhood, yeah, definitely would, for the town, take some initiative on behalf of the residents rather than trying to find some thousands of dollars that I certainly don't have to look into this.
I mean, do we look at our budgets, look at monies available and see if this
We
is
would.
something potentially pull from Six Penny or some place?
Sure, we can find a place to pull from.
There's $287,000 of ARPA money. That's got 140,000 allocated, I think, for this year's budget. So like 140 potentially left in there.
So that's kind of like a little reserve we had set when we did the budget. So I definitely think it's something we need to move forward with. I mean, find anybody tighter than me, but
I think I float by stick the same way. We need to.
Chair will entertain a motion to go ahead and contact this company and get an agreement signed with them.
Make a motion.
Second,
Yeah, so are we approving that proposal then?
Yeah.
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 That's one.
Move forward with
I
this
mean,
proposal.
Yeah.
I didn't see the differences. You said something about it,
Yeah.
but the price is the same.
No, that one, the amended one is higher. It's the 10.
Okay, okay. But this price is the final price that we're going with.
Yeah, and then if we decide to move any forward, anything else, we'll have additional negotiations and whatnot after that.
Hopefully this will be done.
So wait, will you have these folks come and report? Is that part of this? I mean, there's travel and expenses and things included. It's very little. Will you report back?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. And
Findings.
I could probably get one of them, could Zoom too if they
Yeah,
want to.
maybe at the next, maybe at the second October meeting,
Yeah,
if we've got some initial information.
well, they'll have their,
It says
they'll-
completed by the 11th.
yeah, they'll have their professional on where they think those, like how accurate or inaccurate those maps are based off of that scope on the 11th.
And you'd have a follow-up
Maybe they could follow up
recommendation.
on the 3rd, which is our first council meeting in October, to give us an idea where they're at.
Yeah.
Even a progress report, and this says the 11th, it'll be done, but
Yeah. But it'd be nice to have a progress report.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Any other discussion?
thank you for the time and effort.
Thank you.
So,
Do I have did I get a
yeah,
second?
you got us.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks,
John.
John.
Anything else, Emery?
Yeah, I am.
Mhm.
I don't know what I,
Do you want to talk about stamp, Emery? Is that the last one?
yeah, that's the planning and zoning. I had a joint powers. What stuff I was gonna mention, but I don't. know if I did. So, public works wise, I guess, we're done spraying mosquitoes. It's getting cold. We'll wrap that up last week. We will be flushing some fire hydrants here at the end of this week, next week, so I guess I had to stir some stuff up a little bit here and there during that process. So if somebody calls out a little orange in their water or something, that's probably what it's from, is flushing hydrants. Do you want me to go back and then come back up for planning and the joint powers board, or?
I don't know why we just can't move forward with joint powers board and the planning commission into.
Okay. So the joint powers board meeting last week, kind of the highlight of that is, so in 2019, the Wyoming Water Development Coalition, whatever that acronym is, did a study in 2019, and they identified some sediment in one of our wells. They did not check the other ones at the time. The other wells were not videoed either. Moving forward, we kind of want to get those wells videoed, get them bailed out if there's sediment in there. And then, have a status idea of what's going on with them. There's not a ton of downhole information about them. So they were pretty adamant about moving forward with that project. So I've reached out to a few well drillers. We talked to hydrogeologists about them as well. So that kind of proposal will probably come up in the future about getting these wells, been doing this before winter, hopefully getting them wells bailed out and getting them videoed, looking at, the casing, pits, barnacles, et cetera, and seeing where everything's at, and probably developing a kind of a plan moving forward to maybe do that again in 3 years, see what it looks like, and then go from there. Because there hasn't.
Have a maintenance on it.
Yeah, and have a little better idea of what rate they're producing and let us operate a little bit better to know how our pumping and stuff affects that, but we just don't have enough data. And so they were wanting to do that. So I've reached out a couple of people who have the capability to do that, and we'll I work with Craig from the EA to figure out how we scope that. It's kind of difficult because we don't know what's down there. So they might show up and, might be one day on one well, they might be 2.5 days on the next one. So that was the kind of the highlight with the Joint Powers Board. They also did, we'll go into planning. The Planning Commission had a public hearing last week on the Octagon 3rd edition. They made a recommendation to approve it based or with the requirements that the assurances bonds, et cetera, whatever, are put in place before the final plat is approved for that. So we are working, I have a meeting tomorrow with Octagon and our attorney to develop those before you guys get that. You will have a public hearing on that. The 17th is the second council.
I think, yeah, it's the second meeting. That was the earliest we could get it in.
Yeah, for publishing. So that's going on there. And then in conjunction with that, the Joint Powers Board also did make a motion, since the sewer and water lines are in for that third edition, to accept those into the system upon the approval of a final plat. So if that final plat gets approved, that'll kick them into their system, so we don't have a bunch of back and forth. So with that. And then also, we're working through the Airbnb stuff. We've got the attorney on board as we've gone through that process. She's got some things she would like to convey about what's going on with those statewide. It's definitely a very hot topic that we want to have some very deep dive into legally before we make a ton of decisions. So she'll be having a lot of input on that next meeting on that topic. And then the TAPS meeting that Kathy brought up, that was September 13th, 5 o'clock over there. We had, all of you have put a little update that Chris, the log, I think I say his name, he's spearheading that on the engineering side and the planning side. He typed this up for us. So we didn't, in full transparency, we didn't have a massive amount of people show up. There were 28 people that came. We had 14 surveys that were filled out there. Got some online surveys filled out. There was not a giant consensus about whether negative or positive. The biggest thing that I could say out of comments people made is nobody wants any drastic changes to the community. And so we did have kind of a debrief following that. And they're going to look at some of these other ways to try and, reach out and grab people from, other groups and fire department, police department, Kiwanis, senior center, to just try and expand that purview group. It's hard to say we've interpreted what the community wants when we've talked to such a limited number of people. There's 1,700 of them here and probably people in town, and 28 is a small portion of that number. So he'll keep kicking us updates in between him being here for meetings. So we'll have a typed up deal like this for you guys to kind of see where they're at. There's definitely they're trying to get, they are working towards trying to get public involvement. That's their number one priority right now, for sure. So, and they see a lot of little things you don't see walking around every day too. They've been pretty interesting to talk to. So that's where we're at on the TAP study. On the building department side of life, Josh, put this in the paper. If you have an orange tag, please put it where we can see it. Please put it on a tree. Please, if you have a bare lot, please stake it to a T-post. We also are aware, got some people who activities are questionable. We are aware of some of those ones around town. We are working with through what we can with the attorney on those.
So Emery, what you're saying, I need to define conspicuous.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, because the ordinance says conspicuous locations, so.
Thanks, Josh. You guys got any questions?
Any question for Emery? Thanks, Emery.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move back up to the Community Center Joint Powers Board.
I don't have anything to report. However, we did bring up we already talked about the employment, the position there. So that's been addressed. That's good. And the MOU for the agreements that we sent back to, I think it's still in the attorney's hands with the amendments from the last round. So we had update from.
They don't have the MOU yet?
No, we need that.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all. Our next meeting is October 9th, 4:30 at the community center.
Okay. You're up next.
We did water, sewer, planning commission, rec commission. So at our last meeting, we had a couple of folks come in and we discussed pickleball, the fall festival, which we're gonna find out. I was kind of itching when she was running through the fall festival and I looked at the outline, I was like, that looks so familiar. So we'll see if we can maybe tag team that. We do have some fall activities planned coming up. We discussed the pool passes. We mentioned that we got a correspondence in our last that was read out for our last council meeting. So if folks purchased a family pass for 2023 summer and you couldn't use the baby pool because of closures, please contact him. We'd like to make a recommendation that the rec commission makes a recommendation that the council consider waiving fees for the future, or at least discussing some terms for next season. So if folks in the community purchased a family pass for the pool and were unable to use the facility, the baby pool in particular, please contact Kim at the rep director phone number. That's 307-326-8338. On the town hall website. And then we're working on term sheets and some other, we've got a number of activities planned out and updates to the commission. We've got mostly new commission. We welcomed our new member from town. We still have 2 positions open out of town, out of city limits. And then otherwise, I think that's all I've got for general announcements. Sorry, community cleanup. So, sorry about that. That's a big one. What we'd like to do is have maybe 2 weeks set aside in October, because what we discussed in the spring, and we got kind of late to it because of long winter. Proposing something for the fall and the spring. And so what we'd like to do is have like a 2-week period of time where we focus on your personal property, personal space, and then community public shared spaces. So we'll map out maybe 25 to 30 areas along the river, at parks, at campgrounds, in neighborhood areas, green spaces, at the bridges and things like that around the lake. And we wanted to see if the town would cover the expenses for trash bags. And then is it feasible for our public works folks? What we had discussed originally was potentially having set days and set locations where people can come get trash bags. We provide trash bags and then they can leave them in designated spaces for people, for our trucks to pick them up. Is that something that we could discuss some logistics? Or you think that we have resources available to do that for designated days, times, and places, locations?
Kind of like the highway department does
Yeah.
along the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
same
I mean,
idea.
I would probably just request that it fits in a black bag. If you
Yeah.
ideal. So
Yeah.
we don't roll up and there's couches on the side of
Yeah,
the road.
right. Yeah, and we'll have stipulations on that. But it's mainly trash pickup and other general cleanup for fall and spring, because that's when, as the weather's changing, we tend to get some stuff built up around. We're going to try to work with YDOT to, I think we've got some vests and things. So we want to make vests available, high visibility vests, if folks want them. So we'll work with YDOT to see what we can get. And then we'd like to propose another free dump day, so that people do some general cleanup around their properties and things. I know we usually do those in the spring. Could we do one in the fall where we have a day where people can have an opportunity to haul off some trash?
1 second, John. On that, we would, and I'll be more than happy to, but we have to reach out to the landfill district on that.
Okay.
I can't say yay or nay on that. That would come from their board.
Okay.
And I'll be more than happy to reach out to Raymer.
Okay.
Hey, I just have one question, and it doesn't matter, it's not a big, but how did we get the rec department involved in doing this? Was that a program? I don't remember all of it.
Yeah, the rec commission, they're their, it's basically their reason for being, or I don't have it right in front of me, but it has to do with beautification, community. It's providing wellness opportunity, but also beautification in the community. So
So you're.
not only is it recreation that we think of with music and arts and sports and leisure time and wellness programs, but also improvement and beautification in the community. So that was part of,
I was just,
that's one of our initiatives that we thought, that we can work together to, and green spaces are important, obviously, but any space in town, what we're focusing on is making them cleaner and nicer for our kids and families to enjoy.
Okay.
Take pride.
that
in the
answered
community.
that. I just couldn't remember
It's
how.
mission statement, that's what I was looking for, but it's not called that in our bylaws. So you'll follow up with that.
Yeah, I'll check on the dump bag.
landfill board and see how we go about doing that, maybe. And then we'll have more details, more information. I don't know that we need anybody to make a motion except that we go ahead with this. I don't know that we need to fill out a permit for this. We're not using any designated spaces where we're gathering. It would just be something we organize, and then we would work with folks here at Town Hall to help sign up for particular plots or adopt certain areas. And then we would probably just coordinate things.
Only thing I could think of is the purchase of trash bags, but need a motion on that.
No, you don't.
Huh? I don't think so. I think we can just-
Standard supply items for our parks and trash cans around town.
That would be the only thing I could think of, so. If we can put it together, I would say, you're gonna have to coordinate where they need to pick up trash and
Yeah.
everything. We need those designations so Emery can get them out to the guys. So,
Have we done this in the past before or something?
in the past, it hasn't been done in a few years, but in the past, I know it was done. They did have free dump days for certain items, you couldn't take a freezer out there and stuff like tires and,
First few years you could.
Yeah, you're good.
but what the town did is I do know in some cases, if somebody had a lot of trash, the town went and helped, put their dump truck over there so they could throw their trash in there to get it to the dump. I know that's been done in the past, but it's been a while since a lot of this has been done. Josh?
So just to, I guess, comment a little bit on this as a landfill board. Kind of what was done in the past, might have been very well before the landfill district was formed, but the free dump days, and free dump days is kind of a misnomer because it's no charge on certain items up to a certain amount, like 4 tires per person, stuff like that. But that is all done by the district because it is, it's the district's landfill and it's their customers, of which now the town is a customer as well. Since the divorce a few years ago. I obviously, no idea what Chairman Ranger will say to that, but just something that, all for encouraging, additional community cleanup and so on and so forth. The town Saratoga doing a free dump is kind of what I was thinking, who ultimately ends up putting the bill, so to speak.
Right.
So.
That's maybe, we just need to follow up on their conditions, maybe
Yeah,
potentially, or the
well-
guidelines.
I'll go right to the chairman on that. He's usually in the office once a week, so. Shall we move forward?
Yep.
Okay. We'll move on we're down to the Saratoga Airport Advisory Board. Nothing to report there. Their next meeting is October 9th at 3:30 PM. And I see we don't have anybody from the ambulance here. There she is. She was hiding in the background. She normally doesn't sit there.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're currently working on our amendment to our original agreement to the Joint Powers Board agreement. And so the copy that you have is our draft copy. On the first page are the changes that we are wanting to make. So for A, paragraph 1.04, be amended to add a second ex officio non-voting employee or volunteer member to the Joint Powers Board, and to provide that one of the ex officio non-voting members be from Encampment, Riverside, or Saratoga areas, and that one of the ex officio non-voting members be from Elk Mountain, Hannah, or Medicine Bow. So all that means is we actually have one member that's a volunteer that is non-voting, but is on the board. And so we'd like to make two, one from the north side, one from the south side. And then B, we are amending that paragraph to include remote attendance at meetings, just to be consistent with legal requirements, because during the winter, we take turns traveling to each municipality. So last night I was in Medicine Bow for a meeting. Next month we'll be in Hannah. The month after we'll be in Saratoga, and then we'll go to the south side. South, right? Yeah, south side. The next is to amend the current physical and mailing address. Right now, it's actually in Elk Mountain. And so with the ambulance barn being in Saratoga, we want to change that officially in our agreement. The next is to delete language which is redundant with the provisions of the newly amended paragraph 9. Add new language concerning voluntary withdrawal of a participating agency. So we wanted to add that in there in case there are discussions of a municipality that wants to withdraw. And then if that is the case, and we do come across that in the future at some point, then at least it is clearly written out on what will happen and what we will do in the process. Let's see here. E, amended to expand and specify the Joint Powers Board budgeting process, its interface with the participant agency budgeting process, and specifying that a participant agency's contribution of funds to the Schwinn's Joint Powers Board is a legal obligation to pay. F is amended to specify those instances when prior approval from the participating agencies is required to make application for grants and loans. And so with that, we wanted to change it to where currently we have to ask permission for all grants and loans when we apply, but we would like to not ask permission unless the municipality is financially obligated to something, to a purchase
To
or.
participant.
Yes, so unless there's some sort of monetary obligation, we would like to just be able to apply for loans and grants as they come along. G, it's amended to add new subparagraphs and provisions to describe the process for addressing situations when a participating agency fails or refuses to pay its contribution of funds in a timely fashion. And then paragraph 9 to be amended to clarify the requirements upon termination, dissolution, and distribution of assets for the Joint Powers Board. So these are the issues that we see in our current agreement. And so these are what we're wanting to just do. So what we were going to do was we've already passed this along with our attorney. This is the language that the attorney, Kathy McPherson, has approved. And so once we vote to approve this in our next board meeting, we will then bring it to each municipality to approve.
Okay.
Any questions on anything?
No, I don't have any. No, I don't.
The amendments that you came up with, they're just a gathering of information from all members already, right? So that everybody's contributed to these changes.
Correct.
So everybody's aware.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
This has been in the works for the last year, I want to say.
He's on your board. You have a 7-member board or 5?
7.
Plus one, right? You want a total of 8? This is adding another member. Would it
No,
change?
non-voting.
Wouldn't change. It would just be where they live, right? Okay. So it stays 7.
So currently, we have 1 ambulance out of service. It's at Casper Ford right now. It's waiting for an engine wire harness that's got ordered. There's 2 ambulances in Hannah, 2 in Saratoga, and 1 in Medicine Bow. And then we also have 1 pending background check for a driver and 1 just passed. So we have 2 new drivers for our service. But other than that, our next meeting is next month on the 16th at 6 p.m. in Saratoga. No.
Any questions? No. Thank you.
Thanks, Marie.
Okay. Is there any new business to be brought before the council? Is there any further business to be discussed before the council? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn this council meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, everyone, for attending. Justin, you just work everything through Emery. He'll keep us posted.
Able to say the name of the guy.
Hurry up and get our signatures.